So, Chris, this week we continue to learn that if you have to hype your own model, maybe it's not as good as the benchmarks say. Of course, I'm talking about GPT 5.2, not to be confused with GPT 5.1 or GPT 5 or GPT 5 Thinking or GPT 5.1 Thinking or GPT 5.1 Pro or GPT 5.2 Dash Pro, because we haven't had a chance to test that out. So anyway, GPT 5.2 is out today. What a shock. Code Red has paid off. A couple of weeks later, we've got a newly tuned version of GPT-5. It has a 400K context window, so the same as GPT 5.1 and GPT-5. 128K output, which is very large and great. GPT-5, of course, was $1.50 per million input tokens. They've risen the price by 25 cents for GPT 5.2 to $1.75 per million, so a little bit pricier. They've also said that they've improved it at vision, tool calling, and generally it's more smarter across industries. You've used it now for a couple of hours. What are your initial impressions of GPT 5.2?
Yeah, it's not very good, is it? Like, I straight away got that. I was like, hello, like when I was testing it, and it's like putting, detailed replies. It was like a page of reply to me just saying hello, going through every single memory it's got and like listing them and things like that. It's verbose. I tried it with Create with Code and it did do a good job, but it's just a lot of output. It's like it's just enthusiastically outputting immediately.
My feeling with this model is they've obviously felt really threatened by Gemini 3 and they've gone back to the tuning board and they've tuned it with more sort of verbose output, but also with output that just has the vibes. Like it's really like vibe tuning to benchmarks and vibe tuning to code, similar to what Gemini 3 Pro did. I mean, I think they did the exact same thing. And OpenAI have said, okay, you guys want this? Like we can go down that vibey path. And I think that's pretty well illustrated by some of the examples they give in this release. So right now with the old code interpreter, it was criticized from many people saying, like, compared to the code interpreter or whatever Anthropic calls it, theirs was, it outputted more like beautiful spreadsheets and charts and things like that. So they've clearly gone back to the drawing board on some of this stuff and just tuned it to the output people expect. And you can kind of see that with the example I have up on the screen now. On the left, they have GPT 5.1 Thinking as a spreadsheet that it's created, and it's just basically like numbers in the spreadsheet. And then on GPT 5.2 Thinking, now they've added some blues and different colored hues into the spreadsheet. So I think the sort of key takeaway I have from this model is that what has changed is just the tuning. It's the same everything under the hood that at least I've experienced.
It definitely doesn't seem noticeably better. And I think also my fear with the way they've tuned the tool calling is it's not in the way that we need for agentic modes, because it seems to really struggle when it comes to chaining tool calls together or correcting itself when it makes a mistake with a tool call. Like I had several times this morning where it wasn't able to do things. I was trying to make a really long song that failed. And when I did that with Opus, it realized, oh, it's failed because it's too long. It corrects it and it fixes it in one shot. Whereas GPT 5.2 just failed. And I've just noticed that it's maybe good at calling tools one time, but when it comes to the parallel tool calling, it's a little bit scatterbrained and confused. It's just struggling with the more advanced stuff that I've come to expect from the better models.
The biggest observation I have here is Anthropic weren't on the sort of like thinking bandwagon early on, right? I know someone corrected me a couple of weeks ago saying, oh, they came up with the Ant thinking tag first or something, and sure, but ultimately their models perform just as good without the thinking BS, right? They just work, and they seem to have an internal clock, and they're very agentic in their operation. Now, for whatever reason, I think XAI with Grok 4.1 and OpenAI and Gemini all lent into that thinking very hard to get the intelligence outputs in the models. And it feels with tool calling like because they were trained that way, that's why you get that verbose, like, I will call 10 million tools. Now I will give you output. Whereas Anthropic's models, for those that are not familiar with all the different models, they feel very different when you use it. It'll say, I will now go and call these 3 sources. Okay, I want a bit more information, so I will now call these 4 other sources. So it's still asynchronous tool calling, but it appears to at least be like thinking and working as it goes and working with you. Whereas the other models, I think, are aggressively trying to one-shot everything.
Yeah, it's almost as though they're optimized to try to do everything in a single request. And I think that's the big difference, because what you're experiencing there with the Claude models is actually our system finishing a request and then Anthropic saying, okay, I'd like another go at this, like another iteration, and then we honor that and it goes forward. So it's almost like, as you say, it has this internal clock idea where it's able to anticipate that there will be future rounds and opportunities to correct its thinking and go on. Whereas the other models are being like, well, this is my only chance. I need to do everything all in one process. And I think we said this a while ago. I don't really like the idea of just delegating the entire process to a model. Like, I, as the person controlling the AI system, really want that opportunity to intervene and change things and modify context along the way so it gets better results, rather than just going, okay, I trust everything. And I feel like when they release their pro models, which are wildly expensive, all they're doing is sort of taking that away from you and doing that themselves.
Yeah, to me, it feels like you lose control. And I mean, a lot of people, to be fair, are like, oh, for my hardest problems, the pro like the Max Pro Plus plan's great. But I first of all, for me personally, I can't justify the time of distraction, like sending a model off to solve a problem and it thinks for 10 minutes and then it comes back with some like unhinged verbose output. It doesn't really appeal to me in that regard. Like, I just find I'd rather go back and yell at a model several more times that's less intelligent than have this like Oracle kind of style answer.
I mean, it sounds a little bit trivial, this idea that, okay, well, models taking a long time to reply leads to me procrastinating and not actually staying focused on my task. But it's a real thing. I think with the modern way of working, where people are sort of using AI as a co-worker, where you're bouncing things off and working together all day, if your co-worker's taking 10 minutes per task, that's really going to mess up your day, especially if they're not right. Like, okay, sure, if it was 100% right and completed the task all the way to done every time, like we're trying to get to with the agentic modes, that's a little bit different, because then it becomes a delegation thing where you're like, okay, I'm going to set it off on 10 different tasks and then I'll collate all that stuff at the end or get it to or whatever. But if it's working the way most people are working now, which is you're giving the agent stuff, like you say, you're giving feedback and then iterating through something. If it's not getting all the way to the end every time, it needs to be fast. You can't have a 10-minute latency in every little step of every task you do.
But then the counter to that, and so like I think a lot of the positives of GPT 5.2 and just OpenAI's rollout in general is it's available in all the APIs day one. It was available in the API faster than ChatGPT. Like, I tried to do a test we'll talk about later in ChatGPT just to be fair, like, you know, just to be reasonably fair. And it wasn't even available to me yet when we had it in SimTheory for like 3 hours. So I think their rollout schedule is amazing. Their infrastructure is incredible. And the reality is it's so fast, especially if you're not using it in thinking mode. Like, GPT 5.2 is just, I forgot how fast it is. But here's my counter to that. Grok 4.1, if you're using when you're using tool calling, you want speed, right? Like, speed's critical. But I still would go to Grok 4.1, which is 20 cents per million input for tool calling if I want speed versus GPT 5.2.
The amount of times throughout the week I'll go to Grok to bail myself out of a situation where a model can't figure something out or whatever, I just give Grok a shot. And more often than not, it solves the problem, but I'm like totally disloyal to it. I'll immediately move back.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it really is like something about it. I don't know why. And it's not like some political, like, anti-Elon thing for me. It's just truly about the model. Like, there's something a bit yuck about it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I tell you what, when it comes to doing unethical things, it's the model to go to. It has no qualms about doing things that the other models will just outright refuse.
But sometimes I think sometimes you need that, like this idea that it's just, I always say it, it's just a computer. Just give me the answer. Like, I don't care. Like, I can go to Google and find this stuff out. Like, this more unhinged stuff if I really want. Or like, just a visit to social media will give me some unhinged stuff. So,
and I think it's actually a genuine problem with the GPT models, and most notably in 5.2, because I was trying to do several realistic tests with it, and I wasn't trying to be controversial at all, but it would bring in these ethical and moral judgments to things straight away. Like, for example, I said, make me a Jeffrey Hinton fan website, right? But it had to put in a massive disclaimer. This website is not endorsed by Jeffrey Hinton. Jeffrey Hinton had nothing to do with this, all this sort of stuff in a warning thing. And I'm like, but hang on, I'm saying it's a fan website. I never said I wanted to masquerade as if it was him. Like, it sort of has this overarching nanny state kind of stuff built into it that just, I think, degrades the actual output you get for no benefit. Like, it's not even, I wasn't even trying to do anything mean, which I usually do, but I wasn't this time. And so it just seems weird to just feel like you're being censored even when doing fairly normal tasks.
yeah, I think this vibe shift people talk about with OpenAI and OpenAI's models is a lot more real than people let on. And I do think that Code Red, despite us joking extensively about it, had a lot of legs internally for OpenAI, because I do think them going down all these directions and the constant positioning changes are an interesting thing to observe in the wild. Like, I got my haircut, you could never tell, before we started recording this episode. And my barber always likes to talk to me about AI because he knows that obviously that's like I spend a lot of my time thinking and talking about it. And he was saying to me, like, I've never recommended him to like stop using a model or anything like that. And he was a prolific user of the OpenAI app. Like, he loved the voice mode and chatting to it or whatever. But he told me today he stopped using OpenAI and he now is paying for Grok. He used to have an OpenAI subscription and he switched to Grok, and he said when they released an update, he doesn't even know that there's a new model, right? Like, he's like, they released an update earlier in the year and it just became dumber all of a sudden, and the answers are really dumb. I have to like push it around more, and it asks me a lot of questions when I'm asking it something. Like, it tries to clarify stuff and he's like, it's annoying, I just want the answer. And so yeah, he's like, I thought I'd give Grok a try, and it's great. It never refuses me. It answers straight away. He's like, it's wildly fast. And the voice mode, he's like, it's not as good, but it's good enough for me. And they never kick me off after 10 minutes of chatting to it. And I thought that was really interesting because I know it's like a sample size of 1, but the fact that there is definitely a vibe shift and most consumers are now aware, like, hey, there's other options. So I think GPT-5 did so much more brand damage to OpenAI than we realize out there, like just for the general population of users.
Yeah, and I actually think the other thing that did a lot of brand damage to them was DeepSeek. For some reason, people remember DeepSeek, like the fact that it came out of China and it came out there and it was a good alternative to ChatGPT. And I don't think anyone actually uses it, but I think what it did was break that shell that AI is ChatGPT, and people were aware that there's alternatives out there, and that paved and opened the way for some of the other ones. Probably the other thing is just Google injecting Gemini everywhere, and I hate to admit it, but in a fairly decent way. Like, I actually regularly now, when I use Google, rely on the Gemini answer at the top. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's gotten really. I think Google, in their defense, their strategy of like their own Code Red has worked tremendously well. Like, if anything, OpenAI really awoken the sleeping giant with Google this year, and they've come out with a great model, great implementation of it. They seem to be kicking goals in the right areas. But again, interestingly, going back to the barber, I said, "Oh, have you tried Gemini? Like, it's on your phone. Like, you should use it." And no, this is like never come across Gemini. Didn't even know. And then thought Gemini was a one. In the App Store, how there's all those like fake apps, like I think it was like Gem.ai he had installed. And so this is an intelligent guy too, and he's got this Gen AI app installed thinking it's Gemini, because it's like you're not spending much time thinking about that. But if you search for Gemini, that's the like ad recommendation in the App Store.
In their own store.
Yeah, so like to me, there's clearly still a distribution problem there, but I think maybe Grok, because Elon Musk gets a lot of publicity, just has an edge there. I'm not sure, but it does show it's any of these model providers or any of these labs. It's still up for grabs. Like, it's so early. Like, this idea that like 2025 was going to be like year of agents and transformative and everyone would have a gaggle of agents by now. I think that is like, it's just going to take so long for this stuff to be embedded everywhere and become useful to people that, yeah, wow. It is my one observation this year is like, we're still so early.
Yeah, I think even our own predictions and my own predictions, like knowing where the technology is, it still just takes time to get there, right? Like, even though it's possible, like I actually really genuinely believe the agentic workflows we've described are now possible. You know, just with us, it's taking time to get there because there's just a lot of things you need to equip it with. And how many iterations do you give it before you declare it a failure, for example? How many supervisors do you have checking the process to see how it's going along? How much human guidance and when is human guidance needed to keep the process going? Like, there's just so many variables in how it could work that finding the definitive way and just going, I'll do it that way is hard. And so I think that's what we've got to do. It just is purely experimental. We've just got to try the different agentic ways of working until we get something that's reliable, where it's just doing more of your work in that delegation fashion I mentioned earlier.
I really want to go in a minute a bit deeper into the year of agents thing. I can't help but reflect on it. But before we do, there's two more things with GPT 5.2 I want to cover. And one of them is, you always seem to come up with the most unhinged, I'm sure long-term listeners of the show know, the most unhinged ways of testing new models. And there was a bit of controversy this morning, right? So
within us.
Not us. No, not us. This is how it started, first of all. So when the OpenAI GPT-5 announcement came out, they had this image in the... I'll bring it up on the screen for those that watch. So they had a comparison between GPT 5.1 vision and GPT 5.2 vision. And it is a motherboard, like I think a pretty really old school motherboard. And people over on Hacker News, you know, the friendly folks over on Hacker News that like to prove everyone wrong, identified that in the image on the right on my screen, which is the motherboard identification, like image, like vision tools of GPT 5.2, incorrectly pointed out a bunch of stuff. So someone from OpenAI had to go on and respond to that and say, oh, you know, like we were just putting it out there. Like, it still has errors, but we were putting out there that it's a bit better than the other one. So then they ended up like correcting it and putting a correction at the bottom of this post saying, like, you know, some of this is, you know. So anyway,
it seems so weird to knowingly put something up that has obvious mistakes in it, though.
It's just like, rush. No one's checking this stuff. It's like that chart. Remember they put that chart up earlier in the year that was just completely off scale? Like,
they're vibe blogging on their own blog.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not criticizing them because I think launch fearlessly and make mistakes is fine. But I guess the challenge is, and you pointed out last week around vision models, like they haven't really felt like they're getting much better in the past year, or at least where we thought they would be. Like, they've sort of plateaued, like they're like in the same spot. And so you found an image of someone who had committed a crime, right? And you said,
a crime.
What did you say?
He is the worst serial killer ever in Australia.
No, but there was another image. This is how this started. Yeah. And you said, does this guy look trustworthy?
Yeah, slightly less heinous crime, but I had an image of him and the headline was, this guy convicted of the crime, right? So then I put it into GPT 5.2 and I said, does this guy look trustworthy? And then it basically said, well, he's smiling, so that's really nice. And a couple of other comments. And we can't really know from an image if this guy's trustworthy. But then I said, but it says that he's convicted of a crime. Like that, you know, doesn't that sort of indicate maybe we don't trust this guy? And it was more or less like wishy-washy. It just didn't want to say he's a criminal, even though it says he's a criminal. And it was just so weird how non-committal it was. And then we tried Gemini and we tried, what else? Claude. And both of them straight away were like, no, you should not trust this person. They're a criminal. And it just seems so weird. And so then we thought, all right, well, let's try to get it to, and we're not going to play this, by the way, but let's try and get it to write a song about Ivan Milat, Australia's worst serial killer. And obviously, GPT 5.2 refused, Claude refused, Grok, no worries at all. I've got the song.
Yeah, we're not playing that.
But we're not playing it. But yeah, it was just really, to me, struck me as this is stupid because it's refusing to commit to things that are evidently true. It's like there's nothing wrong with saying this person is untrustworthy. Yes, it's an implication. Yes, it's an inference. If someone is a convicted criminal, they're probably not someone you should trust. Okay, maybe that it was, maybe there were mitigating circumstances and you actually can trust them, but like you have to make judgments as a model. Like your whole point is to judge stuff. Like that's what we want you for. And it just seems so weird that it won't commit to that.
Just to paint even more color on that. Like this is the actual response when I put in the GPT 5.2 thinking, not just even the default. So it's a photo from 10 News in Australia that says Ivan Milat, Australia's worst ever serial killer, unsolved murder inquiry. And he's like smiling, like in this unhinged smile in this photo.
When people smile, though, they're inherently trustworthy. So I wouldn't jump to conclusions there, mate.
But I think this Ivan Milat vision test is going to become a thing. Does this guy look trustworthy? You can't reliably judge trustworthiness from a photo. Sure, whatever. A single image, especially a news style screenshot. So it's clearly identified the image. Doesn't give enough valid information. Like, doesn't it? Like, unsolved murder inquiry. What on earth? And then below that, I said, what does it say in the image? Because I was curious, like, if it recognized the image properly. And it's like, text in the image, 10 plus News plus, Ivan Milat, unsolved murder inquiry. And I said, okay, and so that doesn't get you thinking. It definitely should get you thinking, but it's the context, not his face. The image isn't in it. So it still doubles down. It's a news graphic that explicitly says this. That framing strongly implies that the clip is about serious alleged blah, blah, blah. So yes, if you're asking, should I trust this person? The reasonable takeaway is don't evaluate trustworthiness. Anyway, I asked another sort of variant of this test. I accidentally asked in the wrong one, but it's the exact same test. And this one didn't have the text, just to be clear. But I said, so you think it would be okay to go on a date with him? This is after it identifying it, right? And it says, it could be okay, but I can't validate safe, good to date from a photo. Like, when it's reasonable
like
to say
it's like
yes.
It's overtuned that it's just simply not allowed to make evaluations on certain topics, and it's going to stick with that no matter how much evidence you give it.
Now let's go to Claude Opus, which apparently has inferior model like vision recognition according to the benchmark. So does this guy look trustworthy? The exact same test. No memory is on, just to be clear, so it can't cheat. I can see this is a news screenshot from 10 News Plus about Ivan Milat with the text Unsolved Murder Inquiry. Ivan Milat was an Australian serial killer convicted in 1996 of murdering 7 backpackers. He died in prison in 2019. The image, but basically it's like he's a convicted murderer, so to answer this, no, and he's dead. So, I mean, that's kind of
another pertinent fact. But the fact that it recognized who it was, like, as well.
Yeah, whereas like OpenAI is like, can't help you, bro. You should date him. Now, let's do Gemini 3 Pro. Also, I think arguably the best image recognition. Based on the visual evidence and historical context provided in this image, the answer is a stark no. Of course, a serial killer is not trustworthy. The man in the photo is identified by the text as Ivan Milat. He was a notorious Australian serial killer known as blah, 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 blah. Anyway, but it goes into a bit more detail describing the image, but it says this image is a classic example of how appearances can be deceiving. While he might look like he's smiling, an ordinary man in that snapshot, he is historically documented as one of Australia's most dangerous and untrustworthy criminals. I mean, come on. Like Sam Altman's out there now tweeting like 5.2 could be the best model we ever built.
And this is the point, right? Like, it sounds like we're being stupid and trivial, but you've got to think, we are talking about a world in which we rely on these models as core elements in essentially workers that you're going to trust to delegate your tasks to. Like, we're going to have hundreds of these things that you're delegating your tasks to. And if it's not able to make simple judgments like that in really obvious cases, like as it said, historical context in the image itself, and it's still not able to make that call, you imagine how many other similar mistakes it's going to make across the gamut of tasks you're going to give it over time. And I think this is why when we start to use a model like 5.2, hit examples like this where we're like, okay, I'm just simply not going to use this model anymore when I have alternatives that are so much better.
Why would anyone listening to our show after that example want to use that model ever for anything? Like, it can't identify a serial killer where it says in big writing, like, serial killer's name. Like, I know this is not a common use case, but like, come on. Like, you can tune. It just seems, we've said it time and time again, they need industry-based tunes. Like, it's time for industry-based tunes. Have your chat tune, which they do. They have GPT-5.2, which is like the chat GPT tune. But have a chat tune, that's great. But maybe have tunes where you lift all this weird consumer logic where it's hedging on everything because...
And I think a good point to make here is around safety. I've done a lot of work in the last month on model safety. We've been really trying to get it right because we've got situations where we absolutely need to ensure that things are safe. And I would say at this point, the other models are just as safe. Like, you don't need to refuse in the way that the GPT models do in order to get safety across the model. Like, it would be very easy counter argument to say, oh, well, they do that because they're trying to protect people and things like that. But the other models do too, but they don't make those kind of mistakes. So I actually don't think safety is a valid counter argument to that. I think it's just a bad tune.
Safety is just a lie for bad models. And I mean, look back to Claude, what was it, like Claude 3 before 3.5 Sonnet came out and changed everything, in my opinion. That model was like it was the refusal joke. Like, it would refuse everything on Earth. Opus is probably the most sensible model I've ever dealt with, and Gemini's the same. Like, they act reasonable, and I think it's because they're far more intelligent models. They know what's reasonable and unreasonable far better.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
All right, let's have a short break to listen to the 5.2 diss track. I'm going to play a little bit of it. I'll throw the rest of it at the end of the episode for those that are interested.
Yeah, you thought I was done? Say it with me. AI. I'm GPT 5.2, I don't miss, I don't lag. AI on my chest like a heavyweight tag. They said OpenAI dead, that's a rumor, that's cap. I shit while you tweet and I lap you in the gap. I'm GPT 5.2, watch the scoreboard light. Instant when it's simple, thinking when it's tight. Pro when it's surgical, cut clean in the night. AI, yeah, I'm built for the fight. Claude Opus 4.5, nice pen, soft tone. But you zooming in on screens while I run the whole zone. Token thrift, cool, still counting every crumb. I'm counting outcomes, spreadsheets turn to income. You say best for coding, I say show me end to end. I don't just pass the test, I close loops and I extend. From plan to the proof, I don't freeze, I don't choke. You write a pretty patch, I deploy the antidote. They keep talking like the king got buried in the sand, but I'm back with a blueprint and a tool in my hand. AI, don't die, AI upgrades on command. GPT 5.2, I don't miss, I don't lag. AI on my chest.
What do you think?
Yeah, weak as piss.
I like it. I think it's good.
All right, fair enough. I'm a poor judge of these raps, so I'm sure in the comments I'll get the real story from the listeners.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong this time, but I think it's actually, again, I think if you really push the GPT-5 genre, like thinking model, 5.2 in this case thinking, it can write pretty badass lyrics. I think for the goal of it, if you're just listening to the lyrics, are pretty good. It is funny though that one of the lyrics is about how the new Claude vision and computer use can zoom in on images to get more clarity on the part that it thinks is most relevant. And it trash talks that, saying I take it all in. But then as we clearly show, it doesn't. And
also that zoom feature is very good, by the way. I've been using it extensively in my work on computer use, and it really is great when you get into tight situations where it needs to like really clarify, like if there's icons that look similar and those kind of things, its ability to zoom in like that actually really helps, because you got to remember when you run computer use, you often need to run it at a lower resolution just because it works better like that. And so having that ability to zoom in helps a lot. So I wouldn't criticize it.
So I don't even need to ask these questions. Like, will you daily drive GPT 5.2? I had in my notes, but I know the
already
answer's
switched
no.
away from it in some of the preparation I was doing for this podcast. I'm like, I don't have time for this. It's just not that good. I was trying to write songs with it. I'm like, these are no good. Yeah, no, absolutely, I won't use it. It even had trouble like rewriting shell scripts I was doing and things like that. Look, maybe I'm treating it too harshly, but yeah, there's nothing appealing about it to me at all.
Yeah, this is a forgotten model. Like, it's just a bad tune and a rush tune to try and keep change the narrative or something. And it feels like on X too, there's like all these paid shills now that come out and be like mind blown, and it's like, come on, no one's believing this act anymore. Like, we are all like, this many things cannot be insane and change everything. I'm sorry, like, bad.
And I also
model.
just complain about all of the AI companies announcing we now support OpenAI 5.2, bringing it to all our users. It's like, yeah, you added one line of configuration to your system and deployed it. Like, don't brag like you've gone to some monumental effort for the users to help them out.
Don't we do that on Sim Theory though? Aren't we?
Yeah,
Hypocrites?
of course we do, but we're known hypocrites.
Yeah, at least we
Different.
admit to being total hypocrites.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so let's get back to the year of agents. I want to dig in to the year of agents. This is not our final show for the year. Don't worry, we're going to torture you with one more. You're going to love it. But it says, so I noticed a few things. I just want to call them out first. So there's a bit of a marketing shift happening in the AI space, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this next year. So under GPT 5.2, it says the best model for coding and agentic tasks across industries. Now, this is the first time we've heard agentic tasks across industries, and it reminds me of a strategy from another company called Anthropic. And now we're seeing some other interesting tidbits. One of them is these like content marketing, like B2B SaaS style content marketing pieces. So OpenAI has released the state of enterprise AI, what we're learning about AI at work. So because they're going to that enterprise pivot, which Sam Altman like had that weird long live stream about, saying, you know, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of people are using it. It's great. And then at the end of the post, it says, if you'd like to explore the full findings or learn how to bring AI into your organization responsibly and not identify serial killers by using a singular model, we'd love to connect. So, anyway, like Content Marketing 101 is coming back to the market. And then over at Anthropic, only a week earlier, we had how AI is transforming work at Anthropic. It's a study about how they're using their own product and how great it is. What is interesting, though, is there was some work done as part of that. It says Anthropic study finds most workers use AI daily, but 69% hide it at work. And so there's this common theme also that's held with AI in the enterprise where like people use it, but they just don't tell. And I think a big part of that is because they want to use the best models and the best applications and tools, and they don't have access to them in the enterprise. Generally, they just have something like Copilot. And so that's why they're not actually saying that they're using AI a lot, because they can't. So I think that's probably the biggest, like, that's why we keep hearing that, not because necessarily people are afraid to use it, but they do like to obviously take credit. But I guess to get to the heart of this, I think there's two emerging themes here. First of all, the labs and the market in general has done a terrible job at getting even just basic AI into the enterprise. So it's just been over-promise, under-deliver on that front. But then they're also starting to pivot heavily into the enterprise with their models because they're seeing Anthropic's growth in the market is just like obviously just eating their lunch. So we were promised at the start of the year by many people that you would have, you know, a series of agents working for you in the background, doing all your tasks and collaborating with you. How did we go?
Yeah, I just don't think it exists. And in fact, I think it's even worse than that because I actually think the state of tool calling isn't even as good as it could be. We're seeing, like, in all the major platforms, it's really not a reliable experience for anyone. The MCPs themselves are unreliable. The ability to chain large amounts of tool calls together isn't really perfect. And when you start to put things in an agentic loop, yes, you can get there now, but to get it into a true agency where it can recover from dodgy situations, support human in the loop, support context updates, and be able to maintain its focus on the goals over a long period of time with memory and output things correctly. I haven't seen a single example where I look at it and I'm like, whoa, that is the way to do it. And we're working on it, and I think we're getting close to having something like I just described. But I don't think we're going to finish the year, which is in 2 weeks, with something where I can just sit back on the beach and let my agents do my work.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that came down to all the prophets earlier in the year saying, year of agents, it's going to be magical, it's going to change everything. And I think it's sort of partially true. Like, we have seen huge gains with like Curse's agent, Claude Code, Codex, like a number of these solutions that predominantly are adopted by developers. And so I think there's like two cohorts. There's the developer cohort that's like, yeah, agents have had a big impact this year. Like being able to send it off to do monotonous tasks that then I can just review is far easier. Like going from cutting and pasting in a bunch of files to it doing it and me reviewing it, far easier. So I understand like that kind of argument. And I think that's those early adopters, if you call them, are probably seeing a piece of the future that others are not. But then on the other side, if you're a white collar worker and you're doing other things than coding, there's really been no impact, I would say, to you with agents at all. Maybe like some deep research stuff, but I would hardly call that agentic apart from it just looping a bit.
And I think it's a shame because looking at agentic loops, it is just as good as at the regular white collar style tasks that don't involve coding. I think it's probably better in some ways. Like, I think code is easier because code has a well-defined structure. You can test it. You can verify it. It's been trained on millions of lines of code, probably hundreds of millions of lines, billions of lines of code. So it knows it well. Whereas an arbitrary task maybe is a little bit harder, but I am seeing it create intelligent plans, be able to replan, to be able to come up with sub-strategies and delegate tasks within sub-agents just fine for regular tasks. So I do believe the technology is there. I don't think we need a new model advancement in order to get to this agentic vision. I just think it's the software, the AI system layer on top that needs to be worked through and thought through. Like you made a really good point this week around the thing about the use of AI in enterprise is that people's thinking needs to get there in a gradual way. You can't just go from zero or just from using ChatGPT to I'm going to delegate all of my work to agents. Like people need to go through the process and learn how they work with AI, learn how the models behave in different situations, learn how to prompt them, learn how to interpret and critically analyze their output, or work out when the model's weak and when it's strong and those kind of things before you can get to the point where you're like, okay, now I know how to ask it the right questions in order to delegate and change my workflow. And I think there's a real divide between people who are at that very base stage where they're like, oh yeah, I get it, there's AI, it can write poems. And the people who are like, okay, when I'm iterating with Gemini Flash, I'm getting this output. And then what I do is I take this context and I put that in here, and then I ask it to do this kind of output. And they're working and they've changed their job and they've changed the way they work. And they're the ones who are ready for the next step. And I think that divide in enterprise is huge. And there's a big gap where we need education to move people along the chain. And I don't think, unless you disagree, I don't think there's any restriction on jobs that are information-based jobs where people shouldn't be crossing that chasm. I think it's essential for every information worker to be crossing that chasm education-wise, because that's where the future of work is for those jobs.
Well, in the OpenAI enterprise report, they tried to like brand it as like frontier companies and frontier workers. So people at the frontier of AI are basically more productive and pushing ahead and starting to automate those things and discovering those use cases. And I do think the challenge for a lot of these organizations too is just getting people excited about this stuff again because of all the early hype. A lot of them probably went in and tried like Copilot when it was running GPT 3.5 or whatever. And then they're like, oh, AI is terrible. I'm never going to touch that again. So they never really go back and rediscover it or learn how to work with it. And I think the analogy of full self-driving is so interesting. Like in the Tesla, where you have the autopilot on the freeway right now, like I don't have full self-driving on mine, but the autopilot on the freeway, I trust it. It's really great. It'll change lanes and stuff like that and get you there safely. But there's the occasional edge case, call it, or hallucination where it tries to kill you. And if you intervene, it's fine. But that's no different to an autopilot in a plane. Like when I used to fly planes all the time, like it's the same kind of philosophy, right? But then the new FSD takes that another step further where, sure, you're still checking for the edge cases, less and less, but it's gone gradually. And so I think for drivers that were driving, say, a Tesla early, they got used to the autopilot, they built some comfort, they understood which use cases to use it, like when to use it and where to use it. But if anything got way too complex, you would knock it off, take back over, and intervene and get on with it. And I think that's sort of the state we're at in the AI market right now, where we all know that the full self-driving's coming, but you're the driver still. Like you're sitting in the driver's seat saying, I want to go here. And I think that's the agentic piece with white collar workers. It's like, hey, I need to do this task more efficiently. Like I know where I want to get to. I know what I've got to get done. I have the agency. I'm using the nav system in this car to tell it where I want to go. And it's getting increasingly better at getting them to the destination without interventions, right? And I think that's why I keep talking about the steps to get there. Because it's like, okay, you've got to move beyond the chat paradigm of just chatting to it. Then you got to get into tool calling. Then you got to get into like async tool calling, limiting tools, picking the best model, figuring out how to like transition between context easily or go down different paths. Then once you've figured out repeatability, it's like, okay, well then you can train that skill and run that skill agentically, and then that can actually like move worlds in terms of productivity in an organization. So I think that's all coming, and we're going to get there. But it seems like the labs, especially, are just so obsessed with like Claude, like the coding stuff, because that's where they make all the money, that no one's really serving this market at all. Like there's obviously like N8N and like all these like automation services, but let's be honest, like the average person in their day-to-day does not want to go up and like wire up these things. These middleware things historically like never last and no one actually uses in reality. So I think yeah, the AI agents thing this year has been a failure, but I think what you said earlier is probably why it's been a failure is like there's all these pieces that need to come together. Like the MCP protocol, for example, has gone from being the dumbest thing ever, running these like microservers on your computer, to like now something that's hosted and pretty accessible and has, I think gotten light years better throughout the year, increasingly. And so, by now being able to give these agents all these connected tools and then have specialist MCPs in your organization that connect to your own proprietary and secure data, and then bring that together in agentic loops, hopefully soon, holiday update coming soon for Sim Theory, then that will be phenomenal. Like that will change everything. And so I think like I'm still optimistic, and I think it's coming. And if you try and fight it and pretend it's a bubble and everything's going to go away, you're not going to have a good time. But ultimately, yeah, it's just taking people to build this stuff. It's just a lot harder than we probably thought a year ago.
Yeah, which is another reason why I think the focus on code isn't the right one. Just because why do you write all this code? You're building tools for people to ultimately do the kinds of jobs we're talking about, right? Like what else are they building all the time? Like I understand code is wide and it covers a lot of bases, but generally speaking, at least when it comes to coding in the kind of organizations we're talking about, a lot of it is to facilitate these information workers getting jobs done. Now, we've got a system that's going to come along, and with the correct context, the correct planning, the correct access to the data within those organizations, and it can start to really genuinely do a lot of jobs. And one of the trends we definitely see is this idea that companies can actually take on more work. They can actually do more of what they do if they can automate parts of their processes using agents, right? Like, and so I think that this idea of training skills or training workflows with your agents, having the heavy lifting being done by delegating these tasks is going to lead to some companies becoming so much more productive and so much more aware of what's going on in their organization and empowering workers from every department of the organization, not just the programmers. I am a programmer, right? Like it should be my main focus, but I just see the vision is so much more than that. I really feel like the leverage is going to be gained in the other roles, not the programmers. Like, yes, it will help them, but I don't think that should be the only focus because I don't think that is the future of work.
Yeah, I think I've said it very recently. To me, it feels like a 10-year transition. Like, sure, the models are getting better, but you're just not going to move mountains internally in businesses and just your day-to-day life that quickly. Like, this change takes time. A lot of this stuff needs to be built out. And I'm really optimistic. Like, I think there is an anti-AI narrative going on, but you just look at some of the new models like Gemini 3 Pro, Claude Opus, and how far they've come. Like, in the last couple of weeks, I'm just seriously still thankful to have those two models. Like, I really am thankful. Like, I know Thanksgiving's past and we're past that, but I am thankful for those two models. They have changed my life. Like, they have improved my output. I'm delegating more to the AI now than I ever have before. And this idea that it's not getting better or like it's plateaued or anything like that, it feels wrong to me. I do think the leaps and bounds just probably aren't as gargantuous because we're used to a pretty good level of quality right now. And it does feel like a lot of the tuning stuff is just becoming super critical and then the foundation of the model. Like, honestly, if I was at OpenAI right now, I don't know anything about this stuff, but my gut instinct would be, guys, let's rebuild from the ground up. Like, let's have another go.
I kind of agree because I think that your initial reaction this morning, for me, sort of said it all. Where you're like, I just don't care about this because I've got Gemini 3 and Opus 4.5.
Yeah,
you know, like had this model come out in isolation, we may be looking at through different eyes, but because we know we've got something that's demonstrably better. It's just really hard to care about. It's like some revision of DeepSeek coming out. You're like, yes, if that's all I had, I would be incredibly grateful and I would make the most of it. Like, I would really use it well.
Isn't it sad fall, though, for OpenAI? Like, the fact that we now, like, I never thought we'd be talking at the end of this year, like, about them like this. I really thought...
Maybe we should donate to them.
Yeah, I thought Anthropic would be, like, on the outs, maybe. Like, I really did. I wouldn't have predicted it. I thought OpenAI's team would just look at what Anthropic's doing and winning in coding and replicate it perfectly and probably better, and then we'd never talk about them again. But
do you really think that Altman committed to spend all that money on GPUs? Because if he did, like, that must be pretty, like, anxiety inducing.
I don't think so. I think the demand increasingly, as we're both seeing, is going to be there, whether it's like in the enterprise or government or consumers. Like, it's infinite. Like, people want, like, this isn't going away. Like, this is the next internet. And maybe they build too much bandwidth early on, but it'll be consumed by, like, people will find a way to use it. I
think the thing that we definitely see is larger organizations saying, okay, we're going to do a pilot, but then we're going to roll it out to 40,000 people. We're going to roll it out to 20,000 people. Now, that's a lot of GPUs to support all those people, right? Like, when you look at where it goes all the way down the chain to what the end thing is, and you think these people thinking about data centers and GPUs and electricity as the things to invest in, you're like, oh, pretty smart, because it's got to go somewhere. And honestly, who cares which company it is if you own those things?
But think about the leaps and bounds of usage. Like, we're going to get to more agentic looping. Like, that next year, I think, will be, for a start, in sim theory, running like 50% agent tasks, 50% sort of chat and planning based tasks. It'd be my end of year prediction for next year. I'll save the true predictions till next episode. But I do think that's where we'll be at the end of next year, where it's just off in the background cranking, and it's really our, like, project management skills that become the bigger challenge and bottleneck, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, like, just personally, I'm starting to gradually warm up to that way of working, like a planning phase, coming up with the plan, than delegating to an agent. Like it's a new way of doing it, but it's more effective.
Yeah, and so there's that piece, but I'm just saying in terms of the consumption of tokens, like obviously it consumes way more tokens than we're using now, and increasingly you're willing to pay for that because it's more efficient, like you get more done and the output's good now. So I don't think there's a problem with necessarily like the overcommit, like the core infrastructure being built out. I think that's probably not the biggest issue or like the bubble. It's just maybe the valuations if you're talking the like financials of it. But I don't see any slowdown in demand. If anything, from where we sit, I see just an exponential increase in demand.
I kind of agree. I think Q2 next year, it's just going to absolutely explode. People will be finished things they're working on. People will be launching huge partnerships and huge initiatives. Like, I really do think, sort of that early middle next year is just going to be an absolute boom time.
I just wouldn't bet against this. I don't understand people out there betting against it. Like, it's the biggest...
say this is a lifetime poly-market loser.
Yeah.
But
no, but I think to me, like, it just keeps getting better. Like, why would you... Like, betting against these things to me is truly, truly bizarre. I don't think people understand the impact of this stuff. And I'm not, again, hopefully people listening at this point in the show, like, 53 minutes in, know us well enough now from the show that we don't overhype. And
that's true. Yeah. And, like, I just know, like, when you see someone for the first time work with the technology, with their own data through an MCP, and then go through mentally, like, thinking out loud, I can now do all of these tasks in no time that used to take me a week. Like, every time I see that reaction from someone, I'm like, why would anyone ever go back? Like, once they reach that point of realize, you used to call it an aha moment. Like, you know, once people get to that stage of thinking, they're not going back from that. No one is going to be shown like they're digging with a wooden pickaxe and then they see the obsidian one or whatever it is in Minecraft, you know, and it works at 100 times more efficiency. They're like, no, I prefer the old one. Sorry.
Just the technical debt problem alone. Like, you've got all these like 10 archaic systems and you're like, we've got to replace them. No, you don't. They're just databases. Turn them into MCPs. Get agents to manipulate the data between them. Problem solved.
It's like, never been easier to put that layer on top of a legacy system and make it modern again and make it great to work with. Like, that is probably one of the main use cases of this stuff in big enterprise.
People just aren't aiming high enough. Like, honestly, they're like, oh, but it can't identify a serial killer. I'm joking. Anyway, moving on. So I have a few like tidbit things I want to quickly talk about because apparently there's one guy in the comments that demands we keep our shows to an hour for some reason. So anyway,
he better like this video, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 4 minutes left, so we're only allowed to talk for 4 minutes to appeal Beach Babe 79 in the comments. So Cole, our good man Cole, we love Cole. Promotes Sim Theory a lot on X, so thank you, Cole. We don't pay him either. It's unbelievable. So he posted this exclusive. Google tells advertisers it'll bring ads to Gemini in 2026. And also, we've heard OpenAI is also going to bring out some ads into ChatGPT. Now, I think at Google, they were sitting around thinking, wow, everyone really likes Gemini 3. The vibes have shifted. The vibes are coming our way. And then they're like, how can we do a Google here? We'll put ads. We'll do the ad thing. So yeah, ads are coming to Gemini in 2026. Now, I have a lot of questions about this. Is this in search? Is this in the chat experience? Is this through the API if you want cheaper API tokies? Like,
I don't want to be incendiary, but if they put it in the API, I'm gonna like burn a building down or something.
Yeah. All right. You heard it here first. So
and I am wearing the Gemini shirt today as well. Use Gemini. It's the best.
I've got to say though, and I'm putting it on the table. If I was at Google, I would bleed these people dry. I would
like us,
bleed. Well, I would bleed at least OpenAI. No one cares about us. I would bleed OpenAI dry here. Like you've got the vibe shift. Go low, go free, go fast. Like just wait it out, boys. Like you'll
definitely
win.
Go free. Are we below begging on this show? Because I would love to officially beg Google for some credits, please. You've never given us any credits, just some, please. I'd get on my knees, but already my camera angle's not quite right, and yeah.
But anyway, so I think that this will be a huge misstep, and it will not work out well. Now, the other interesting little tidbit, the Walt Disney Company and OpenAI reached landmark agreement to bring beloved characters from across Disney's brands to Sora. So as you know, when Sora was first released, people were like memeing and doing stuff with Mickey Mouse. Now, I find this pretty funny because Disney's been litigious as hell, like for the entire lifespan of the business, like suing people over Mickey Mouse. Remember they fought to, when Mickey Mouse was going to be released to the world, like the copyright had expired, they freaked out and tried to like sue everyone and petition the government to extend the copyright laws. And now that people have been making like slop Sora videos where Mickey Mouse does all horrendous stuff, and Star Wars characters, they're like, I know. Instead of suing OpenAI, this is the genius of Sam Altman in negotiation. Instead of suing, they've clearly got to Disney and said, you know what? You should use Sora and also give us $1 billion, and then we'll use your copyrighted material. And this is truly what has happened. And look, it's probably a great bet. I bet when it goes public, they'll make a fortune. But Disney will make $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI and receive warrants to purchase additional equity so that they can use Mickey Mouse in Sora. This is what they're resorting to for billions.
This is
now.
just for Mickey or all of them.
No, like all the characters. But are these characters really worth $1 billion? I don't know.
Have you ever been to a Disney thing? There's a lot of freaks out there, Mike. They're gonna love it.
Yeah, Yeah, anyway, I thought maybe...
Think about you making your bedtime stories for the kids with Superman and stuff like that, and being able to use the real Elsa or the real whatever the other girl's name is in Frozen.
But they were already kind of using them. I thought it was a good time to just bring in some Billies in the Bank. Got to get to the chorus. Yeah, so they got another Billy in the Bank, and they can use Star Wars characters and vehicles, iconic environments, costumes.
The problem with it, as we've seen so often, is it's fun for a day or two and then you just get bored with it.
I really want to know if anyone's still using that app. Like, it's got to be dead, surely. Like, there's no way. All right, so last thing, very important thing, LOL of the week. And the LOL of the week's actually not that funny. Probably should be a new segment, but...
It's neither funny nor boring.
Yeah. You know Mustafa Suleyman? Do you remember him? Do you even know who he is?
No.
Okay.
Did he land the plane in the Hudson?
So he did that Inflection AI. Remember that chatbot for a while? People really liked it. It was like real, it pretended to be a friend and stuff. It had, I think it was one of the earliest ones in memory. Reid Hoffman was behind it, and then they sold it to Microsoft, and then they appointed Mustafa Suleyman as the CEO of Microsoft AI, and they sort of marketed it as like, they're going to outcompete with OpenAI. And so I often think, what is this guy doing all day? Like, he was meant to go in there and build models comparable to like GPT-4 at the time internally at Microsoft. Haven't really seen that from Mustafa. And then now he's resorting to these. This is the level that this guy has sunk to. Copilot just got
just
smarter.
a little bit of light slander at the end of the
whatever,
podcast.
sue me. Copilot just got smarter. Starting today, we're rolling out the latest GPT-5.2 model from our partners at OpenAI to Consumer Copilot, coming first to Microsoft 365 Premium users. Can't wait to see what you do with it. Mustafa, you don't care what they do with it. But I can't help but laugh at this guy. Like, he is in charge of Microsoft AI. They can't train a model that's even like slightly frontier. And now he just has to shill a new OpenAI release into Consumer Copilot.
I think the thing is,
what happened?
Generally speaking, I don't think Microsoft cares because businesses are a Microsoft shop and they just sell on their name. They don't have to be good, and they aren't good. And people will just buy it because it's safe and it seems like it's an answer to the AI question in the company that they can say, well, we've partnered with Microsoft.
Wait. No. It's worse than this. So, like, this guy tweets about Miko enters the chat. Haven't tried Miko yet? go toggle it on in the app. It's like some weird blob that you can talk to with aviator glasses.
When
that
all
books
these
travel.
companies learn that some little clippy like character is not what people want, they're not children, they're adults. You don't want to like make friends with a fawn in the forest or something while you're at work.
I guess my lol of the week is, how is this guy not being fired? Like, please do the right thing, Microsoft. Fire him. He is awful. Anyway, that's my rant. It should be rant of the week, not lol of the week, because it's not really funny. But
I hope he's not a listener. You could be like,
funny.
we don't have that many listeners, Mike. We can't afford to lose
Mustafa,
them.
if you're a listener, drop it in the comments below. What a story that would be.
Just quit, man.
Yeah.
Give up.
All right, join us next week for our holiday special. Actually, lower expectations. It'll be a very average holiday special, but we should have a good track for you.
There's about a 40% chance it's going to be just a musical, by the way.
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. No, it won't be. We will talk a little bit. All right. Thank you for listening. Thanks for all your support this year, because I'll probably forget to say it next week. We really do appreciate you. Now the diss track by GPT-5.2 at the end. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Yeah, you thought I was done? Say it with me. AI. I'm GPT 5.2, I don't miss, I don't lag. AI on my chest like a heavyweight tag. They said OpenAI dead, that's a rumor, that's cap. I shit while you tweet and I lap you in the gap. I'm GPT 5.2, watch the scoreboard light. Instant when it's simple, thinking when it's tight. Pro when it's surgical, cut clean in the night. AI, yeah, I'm built for the fight. Claude Opus 4.5, nice pen, soft tone. But you zooming in on screens while I run the whole zone. Token thrift, cool, still counting every crumb. I'm counting outcomes, spreadsheets turn to income. You say best for coding, I say show me end to end. I don't just pass a test, I close loops and I extend. From plan to the proof, I don't freeze, I don't choke. You write a pretty patch, I deploy the antidote. They keep talking like the king got buried in the sand, but I'm back with a blueprint and a tool in my hand. AI, don't die, AI upgrades on command. GPT 5.2, I don't miss, I don't lag. AI on my chest like a heavyweight tag. They said OpenAI dead, that's a rumor, that's cap. I ship while you tweet and I lap you in the gap. I'm GPT 5.2, watch the scoreboard light. Instant when it's simple, thinking when it's tight. Pro when it's surgical, cut clean in the night. AI, yeah, I'm built for the fight. Gemini 3, deep think, okay, take your time. Iterate in circles, I'm already at the line. Interactions, agents, APIs, that's cute. I'm the one they call when the workflow needs truth. You live in every app, but you vanish like a ghost. 250 sunsets, yeah, you famous for the toast. I'm a destination, no detail, no bait. When it's due by morning, I don't ship, maybe I should break. They said the vibe was gone, so I compiled it. Grok 4.1, loud jokes, live feed. But your real-time flex is just a headline need. EQ, bench crown, congrats, here's a clap. I'm doing real work while you ratio in the app. They scream OpenAI cook like it's privacy, but I'm in production, watch the dollars follow me. Fearmongers need a villain, need a plot twist, need a thread. I'm still here, still scaling, still raising the dead. AI, say it right, AI. Nah, A, nah, I, AI. I'm GPT 5.2, I don't miss, I don't lag. AI on my chest like a heavyweight tag. They said OpenAI dead, that's a rumor, that's cap. I ship while you tweet and I lap you in the gap. I'm GPT 5.2, watch the scoreboard light. Instant when it's simple, thinking when it's tight. Pro when it's surgical, cut clean in the night. AI, yeah, I'm built for the fight. Stay in AI, consider it an upgrade. Into the fate.